It's been 28 years since the red rum of beauty queen JonBenét Ramsey, and we still don't know what happened. I'm going to go out there and say that this is the most disturbing, unsolved child red rum that I can even think of. And the fact that I'm seeing new headlines, as in new a week ago, literally a week ago, saying there's new evidence in this case. I mean, that is pretty incredible to me. But if you are not familiar with the very tragic and ever perplexing story of the red rum of JonBenét, she was a 6-year-old beauty queen. She lived in Boulder, Colorado with her mom, Patsy, who was a former beauty queen as well, her dad, John, and her brother. And her brother, Bo, by the way, I mean, if you're familiar with this case and the twists and the turns and the blames, I don't know if you feel this way, but the blaming of her brother, that was the dumbest, worst theory ever. I'm jumping ahead, but there was a theory that he hit her in the back of the head with a flashlight because she ate his pineapple. And I'm still in shock that medical and legal experts, ex-law enforcement, they all came to that conclusion. That is just the worst theory I can ever think of. But anyway, so she lived with her mom, her dad, and her brother, and she was found deceased on December 26th, 1996, inside of her home. So what happened was that morning, her mom woke up, Patsy, and she did not find JonBenét in her bed. So she reported her missing after finding a ransom note demanding money. And that ransom note has been a huge subject of contention. A handwriting expert had determined that the handwriting was very familiar. It looked a lot like Patsy's handwriting. And also the amount of money that was demanded to the JonBenét or the Ramseys to pay was the exact bonus that John Ramsey got that year. That was another big red flag. And I think this is also what made everybody start to look at the parents, John and Patsy, because if you remember, or actually, I mean, even to this day, people still say that they are in on it, that they knew something. I mean, I have certain thoughts. Patsy is now deceased. She died of cancer. Well, we'll get to my thoughts. We'll get to my thoughts after. But also, the fact is that JonBenét was found in the basement, and I didn't get to what happened to her, but she had suffered head trauma, a blow to the back of the head, and strangulation, and the fact that she was in the basement, which was allegedly very hard to find, as in if you are a stranger and you are breaking into the home and you would like to kidnap a kid and take them somewhere, if you didn't know the house and the layout, you probably wouldn't have found this basement so easily. So that was something else that sort of got law enforcement thinking, hey, whoever did this, they probably were familiar with the house. Also, there was a law enforcement officer, a female law enforcement officer, who really suspected John Ramsey from the start based on the way he was acting. I mean, look, everybody handles situations differently. It's easy to get a hunch, right? Based on someone's behavior, but of course that doesn't prove anything, and it can't prove anything, as it shouldn't. We don't convict people on hunches. But yes, this case, I mean, I don't even think media scrutiny is the right word, but another thing that really concerned people after this was that John and Patsy Ramsey appeared to hire a PR firm when they were doing interviews, and they were on Larry King, they were on CNN, and I remember the Larry King episode where the one detective had said to Patsy, this is his theory. And again, I'm like, this is your theory? Seriously? That he thought Patsy did it because JonBenét wet the bed and Patsy was upset about it and then staged this whole thing. And Patsy, that's when I'm just like, really? Because again, the way JonBenét was found, like she had a garrote, they called it, around her neck. Something else in the autopsy report that I found to be very interesting and telling was that they said, chronic inflammation of the vagina, which, she was SA'd upon when they did the autopsy. And I felt like that was a bit telling, the word chronic. So perhaps she had been abused in the past, but also the Ramseys had said that JonBenét got UTIs, which is very rare in a child, but it could still happen. And allegedly, they took her to the pediatrician something like 7 times that year, something very, very strange, I guess. Or I guess I say that it's strange to go 7 times in a year because generally when a child is 6 years old, you just take them once for their yearly checkup. Of course, they could have sick visits, etc. But yes, 7 times or something like that, it just seemed very excessive. So there's all these different theories emerging. Patsy appeared to just be so out of it, very, very much on pills, trying to self-medicate. And yeah, it's bad. It's still bad to this day. And I think that it came out, I believe it was 2015, I want to say, where a journalist in Colorado was able to get the grand jury docs because a grand jury was convened, and they were not convened to charge Patsy and John with the red rum of their daughter. They had convened to charge the Ramseys with neglect. So basically, there was evidence to support the fact that John and Patsy Ramsey had possibly put their daughter in harm's way, either knowingly or they ignored it. And this is when I will start to get to what I think. But it turns out a grand jury did want to charge them with child neglect. But the DA, which this can happen, it's very rare, the DA stepped in and said, nope, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. I mean, the Ramseys were very well connected to the community and their church, St. John's Episcopal. So I think if you ask me, and this is after some research that I've done, if you are not familiar with the Zell brothers, you should look into their research as well. The Singulars, Stephen and Joyce Singular, Stephen, God rest his soul, they have a great book, but the Zell brothers turned me on to Stephen and Joyce as well. And this dedication that they have to the case is pretty incredible. They've been banging the phones, talking to sources that are still alive for pretty much 20 years. And they really have focused on the church and secrets within the church. And I think that this is all tied together. I really do. I think that John Ramsey was very close with Father Hoverstock, who obviously ran the church at the time. And Father Hoverstock protected people within the church. JonBenét went to preschool there, or not preschool, I'm sorry. She went to Sunday school there. And she was there a lot. And Patsy was there. And people in the church were in their home. People in that church were at events with them. And I think maybe something happened. And maybe, just maybe, something was happening, but the Ramseys had to look the other way because it would look so bad if it came out. So I want to pull up a recent quick interview. I'm not going to play the whole thing, that John Ramsey actually did on Banfield. And when I said, this was a week ago, we're talking about new evidence. I mean, it's pretty incredible. So let me play this. I'm going to play it.
Christmas, one of the happiest times of the year. But for those of us in the true crime community,
very fast. I like to play things on a bit faster, but that's a little bit too fast. Okay, let's try this.
And for one family in Colorado, it is also a very dark anniversary. This month marks 29 years since 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey was found murdered inside her own home in Boulder. That means nearly 3 decades of questions and investigative missteps, and one of the most haunting unsolved cases in American history. JonBenét was killed the day after Christmas, 1996, strangled, her skull fractured, her body left in the basement. And despite some brief moments of hope over the years, no one has ever been charged in this crime. But there may be a new development. Boulder police have just said that they have new evidence in the case. In their annual update, Police Chief Stephen Redfern said that JonBenét's murder remains a top priority.
What?
And he outlined new steps being taken to move the case forward. Take a look.
This past year, our detectives have conducted several new interviews as well as re-interviewed individuals based on tips that we've received.
Also, I thought it was
We've also
28 years,
collected new
not
evidence
29.
and tested and retested other pieces of evidence to generate new leads. Techniques and technology constantly evolve. This is especially true with technology related to DNA testing. Detectives continue to consult with outside experts from across.
Okay, this is not new. They always say that. Yes, DNA testing has improved. You know, there's more things we can test. Blah blah blah. Okay, I get that. That to me is not new. I want like an actual, a tangible piece of evidence that should be tested
Across the country, as well as our state and federal partners, to strategize and explore all options when it comes to evidence testing.
Police are not saying what that evidence is or who has been interviewed, but they are confirming that new and follow-up interviews have been conducted and that new evidence has been collected. They also say that older evidence has been retested using advances in DNA technology with help from state, federal, and outside experts. I'll get to that in a moment, outside experts. Investigators are again urging anyone with information, no matter how small, to come forward and tell police, even this many decades later. And just as he has for nearly 3 decades, JonBenét's dad, John Ramsey, is still waiting for answers and still believing a breakthrough will come. And John joins me now live. John, I can't even count how many times you and I meet at this time of year to discuss what's new, what's happening, what's different, what's changed. But something does feel different this year. To hear Chief Redfern say that they've got new evidence, that they've retested old evidence, and that they're using outside experts. Let's start with the new evidence and the retesting of old evidence. Have they told you anything about that?
Well, Chief Redfern told us, actually, I don't know, September, we had a meeting with him, and that he had submitted evidence for additional DNA testing. He didn't say what evidence it was, but that it was submitted again, or perhaps new. We don't know if it was new or stuff that had been tested before. We, of course, had advocated that if certain evidence that was taken from the crime scene has never been sampled, that it ought to be. The main one being the groat that we used to strangle my daughter. So it's encouraging, and the key really in progress has been the addition of new leadership there. It was not very good for 25, 26 years. And brought in Chief Redfern from the outside. I've met with him 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
I'm impressed with him. I think
look, he says that the leadership in law enforcement wasn't very good. And I don't blame him, because I feel like he thinks, and as he should, they never actually looked for any other suspects besides the Ramseys. They had their minds just totally made up. That's what I think.
He's sincere and honest, and so I'm encouraged. And we've advocated.
I can't believe, John, I can't believe that the chiefs in the past haven't seen it as a priority, if only to become, famous in name as the chief that solved this case. It just defies logic that it's taken 3 decades for someone to come along who maybe does make this a priority and who has the chops. Do you know if they have enlisted labs like Othram? And I bring up Othram because it's famous for having solved the Idaho murders.
Yeah, no, Othram is one of the few cutting-edge labs that can do investigative genetic genealogy. IgG is the term for it, and we've been advocating that the Boulder police do that.
Yeah,
use that technology.
Okay, so I think we all get it. This, truthfully, I feel guilty, and I hope and pray that JonBenét's Red Rum will be solved. But I don't think this was anything new. I get that you have to. You have to make your show interesting. You have to make headlines interesting, but nothing felt different than what they pretty much say every single year. More DNA is going to be tested because it's improved so much throughout the years. Blah blah blah. I don't think so. I think it goes deeper. I think the killer is still in Colorado. I think John Ramsey possibly has an idea as to who that might be. But I think that, and again, my opinion, totally my opinion, I think that if it were to come out and this person were to be implicated, that person could say something like, again, my opinion, well, John and Patsy allowed me to be around JonBenet. They possibly knew, etc. I'm just saying that's what I think. And that's partially why I think it hasn't come out yet. But if I'm wrong, not if I'm wrong, who knows? It's like, if I'm wrong, there's a very good chance I'm wrong, of course. But and that's why I'm not sitting here pointing fingers at John. Or, maybe Patsy knew about something and John didn't know. And then once she admitted something to him, it was too late. And he was like, oh, God, well, both of my girls are dead. So what is it? You know what I mean? Like, why am I going to tarnish my ex or my wife's legacy. I don't know. It's just such a tough case. It's such a tough case. But anyway, guys, I hope everyone had a great Christmas again, a great holiday, and I'll be back Monday with a new episode with some current events, some current news on this LA Magazine pop culture scandal and crime podcast. Everybody stay safe and stay vigilant. Thanks for watching.